Hey everyone, welcome to Conversations with Nick and Alina, and this is either our fourth or fifth installment with Edmund Mitchell. We've lost track. We've been at this for so many weeks, in the same clothing, repeatedly in the same positions.
This is the month of Edmund.
This is the Edmund Mitchell series. Edmund Mitchell from The Show with Edmund Mitchell. Anyways, welcome to Conversations with Nick and Alina. We've had a blast developing this series around questions that we received on Instagram. And so if we ever ask for questions on Instagram or Facebook and you're thinking to yourself, will they ever actually get to my question?
We will.
Probably. And we might even make an entire episode surrounding it.
We might even make an entire month's worth of episodes.
Yeah.
Yes.
About it.
We didn't even know this would happen, but here we are. So today's question, this is one that is very interesting. This is one that is not... this is a question for which the topic is not oft covered in Christian and or Catholic podcasts. This is a very unique topic. Alina and Edmund saw me...
Give your first guess.
All right, let's hear it. What do you think this is?
I don't know.
What is it that Christians don't often cover?
I don't know.
Edmund, do you have a guess?
I think this is a Full House related question, probably. Or like Family Matters.
Nope.
Okay.
You're way off.
Well,
weird
Are we gonna talk about
transcendental
drugs?
existential sense.
Are we going to talk about drugs?
We're talking about drugs.
Christians don't
No.
often talk about drugs.
Nope, that's not it.
Because drugs are evil.
It's not that.
Is that what you said?
I said transcendental or existential sense, it is Family Matters.
So Christians don't talk about it.
Dying.
Is it about...
Anthropological sense, it's
Dying?
Family Matters.
Cavemen.
Saints.
You could say it's about cavemen in a sense, depending on what your...
Ancestors. Oh, evolution.
So it could be said that this ties into evolution, but it's...
This is awful.
Here's what it is.
Tell
It
us.
was a question posed to us by Susie and Dean Smalley.
Oh, polygamy.
Nope.
Dang it.
I mean, that is a follow-up question, but it actually has nothing to do with the initial
Polyamory?
question. No.
Polydeity.
This has to do with our genesis, our origin story, and our original parents, our progenitors, namely Adam and Eve.
Yay.
So here's the question.
X-Men, first class.
Nope. Who is Lilith?
Oh.
What?
What?
Who
what do you mean,
is
what?
Lilith? And this is a tough question because
Wait,
it's
what?
not commonly discussed.
Lilith.
I've never heard of
Aren't
this.
you a pagan?
You've never heard of this?
No.
Come on,
Edmund,
man.
see, you spent
Brush
too
up
much
on
time
your-
at Franciscan University of Steubenville,
I
where
did.
they only covered legitimate history of our anthropology in church.
Yeah, I spent 2 years there, and that was too much. I transferred in. That's a true story. I transferred in.
So
only spent 2.5
I
years.
actually, and you saw me scrounging.
Is this from the Epic of Gilgamesh?
It actually is not.
Okay.
Gilgamesh.
It is not. It is. So I'll get into what I know about it. But do you have any sense of what this is about?
Lilith is...
Pull the mic up.
Lilith actually is a devil-themed
was
horror movie from
talking.
the 1970s.
Is it
sounds
actually?
Like. No, it's just what it sounds like. It sounds
Oh,
like one
okay.
of those exorcism movies. Lilith.
I know that a lot of women worship this Lilith thing. Like, right? Something about pagan women worshiping Lilith because she was like...
There are
naked and
rumors.
whatnot.
There are
I don't know.
rumors, and there can only be rumors of such a thing, that some of the upper tiers of the extreme leftist feminists worship Lilith because of what she represents.
What does she represent, Nick? Tell us.
Who is Lilith?
Yeah, tell us
Here's
now.
the lore. I'll call it lore because it's not formally a part of our deposit of faith.
Don't get excommunicated, bro.
Wait, but none of pagan religion is part of the deposit of faith.
This falls into a
What?
category of gray area in the sense that just because it's not included in the book of Genesis, it's like questionable to theologians and historians of like did this exist or not?
I
What?
feel like we're gonna get in trouble talking
Why?
about this.
And I'm not saying at all that I stand by this topic.
Okay, wait. So give it.
I'm
to us.
answering this question from the standpoint of what there are those out there believe.
Okay.
That's not a proper
So wait,
sentence.
there are Catholics out there that might believe in.
There are types of Catholics that would believe in this.
Okay. Okay. So
in this.
Lilith is Eve's stepsister.
No.
Okay.
Stepmother.
Nice try. No. Nice try. Lilith, in the lore, which is... There is a book of... there's another book about the creation story that is not in the Bible.
Yeah. So he's like apocryphal.
It is apocryphal.
Books.
It's
okay.
called the Book of Jubilee. And it is included in the Ethiopian Bible. And in the Ethiopian Bible, in the Book of Jubilee, Lilith was the original partner to Adam. And she was not made from his bones.
So she's like the ex-wife.
She's the ex-wife.
Dude, that is
In the
bad.
lore,
What was she made from?
her
Trees.
own
Trees.
uniqueness.
I don't know.
Trees.
No, that is not
She was made from
the lore. That is not the lore.
She's a lady of the trees.
She's made from a lily.
Okay, wait. So what?
There
So
are people that believe that before Eve,
There was another woman.
there was another woman
So
who was
what
not
happened?
made from Adam, not from his flesh, not
Okay.
from his bone.
All right.
And they claim that that is why he makes the distinction when Eve is made, that this woman is made from
At
my
last.
flesh and my
Oh,
bone.
at last. But
At
yeah.
last,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So why does this
She
matter?
refused.
So she's like equal in some way to Adam,
Right.
and that's the feminist.
But
spin.
refused to be submissive to him as the husband.
Okay, so
I
now this
kinda
is
like
making
this
sense.
woman.
Okay, now this is making.
Excuse me.
Yeah, no, but that's kind of making
I
sense
see
now.
the appeal.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
thanks.
it's like an alternative story that places
Dude, Eve messed a lot of things up for us
Yeah.
women. We got periods now.
but
we
I'm
got
get- but I'm-
painful childbearing. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah,
It
but I
sucks.
am getting now though the whole like
the appeal.
the appeal of like, oh well, no, this is like, well, Adam got the original story. Well, what about this version where she has her own origin
right.
story apart from Adam?
Yeah. So, in my recollection from what I learned years ago, she essentially, when they were not going to work out, she became like this demoness goddess of like
The underworld.
of rebellion and of these kind of demon children and
So uplifting, hopeful, happy.
That doesn't make sense though. A demon is a spiritual entity.
right. It's lore. It's not accurate to Catholic theology
Yeah, that
or
doesn't
true
sound
Christian
like
theology.
anything good.
Lilith is in this book?
It is, yeah. So
Where's this book?
I picked this book up from the seminary called Saint Meinrad. When I
Back
was
when you wanted to be a priest.
I know. During one of our breakups, I was
Dark
very
times.
I was
worst.
I was very seriously discerning becoming a priest.
Yeah, worst time of my life.
By a dear mentor of mine, Father Michael Dandurand.
I love you, Father Mike.
He is an incredible man of God, and he took me to the seminary for a spiritual retreat to discern priesthood and to see what it was like to live religiously, to live in
What did
this
you think about
environment.
that?
It was a beautiful experience to live with
What
these
was
monks.
it like to live religiously?
Yeah, what is that like?
Well,
Probably a lot more peaceful than here.
it was beautiful. It was
okay,
beautiful.
Lilith. Get the
Yeah,
Lilith.
so in the bookstore, I picked up this book called A Catalog of Angels.
This is the catalog of angels.
It's a catalog of
Okay,
angels.
all right. Okay.
Specifically, not the catalog.
Fair
of angels.
enough. Fair enough.
Anyways, this book very interestingly aggregates angels from the Christian tradition, the Judeo tradition, and the Muslim tradition.
Okay.
And it basically outlines angels and demons from all of that.
Okay.
And in this book, it mentions Lilith in the kind of index in the back.
Is there a check in the back of that?
Is there a check? That'd be fun.
Is it a blank check?
Nah, it's not a check.
Oh man, I thought it was a check.
Anyways, that would have been great.
Sorry.
So this book says about Lilith that in some legends, and this is specifically this book says that it's in in Judaism, in the tradition of Judaism.
Weird.
In some legends, the first wife of Adam, She rebelled and became a major demon who sought to kill infants. The name given to female demons is Liliot.
That's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, again, these are things that are not found in the
Scripture,
the scriptural accounts of history, according to like what God wanted us to learn about Him and His creation. But it's an interesting story, and I think if nothing else, it kind of communicates something about our humanity.
Yeah.
It communicates this idea that we have a choice to follow God's leadership as our heavenly and ultimate spouse, or choose to do things our own way. So who is Lilith? Lilith represents rebellion. Lilith represents a refusal to conform to God's law, to God's role as the marital spouse of humanity. And for many people, according to rumor, Lilith represents an idol of worthy of worship. If you do not want to conform to this, allegedly male-dominated society and blah blah blah.
Yeah, I think as like a counter argument against that, though, I think a lot of that stems from a faulty reading of the Genesis account. I mean, if
Agreed.
You can read it in a certain lens that feels like, oh, Adam was created first and Adam has all this power, and read it from this perspective of power dynamics. Yeah. But I remember when we were studying the Genesis story, and someone who was much more knowledgeable about mythic scripture or this mythic Hebrew structure of scripture. I don't know. I'm talking about things I don't really understand, but from what I remember about it, if you really think about the Genesis narrative, God's creation gets more and more complex as the days go on. And so if you follow that perspective, it means that Eve, being the last thing created, is the most complex, the crown jewel of creation. And where Adam gets just like one or two lines, he was formed from the dust or whatever. Yeah. Eve gets many lines. Eve is fashioned, and the verb is very different than the word used for Adam. Adam is just made. Eve is fashioned, and Eve is this, like you said, the crown jewel that gets more. She has a way more complicated story of her creation, which paints this picture of something that is more valuable, that is more precious, that is in some ways like worthy of being.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean,
I think women are less animalistic than men because y'all were created like animals were.
Yeah, right.
Like, and we're like the civilized.
Yeah,
humans.
Civilized people. Yeah. Don't put your elbows on the table. Like pick your underwear up off the floor.
I mean, to me, everything you just said, Edmund, makes me think about Corinthians, where we hear, or is it Ephesians? Which one is it?
It's one of those are both books in the Bible.
Wives, serve your husbands.
Yeah.
Ephesians 4.
Yeah.
Ephesians chapter 4. Is that where it's at?
Something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, anyways, wherever that's at, there's this commonly overlooked theme in this, where if you read the full chapter and you really take it into context, wives, submit to the mission. Be submissive, be under the mission of your husbands. And then it follows that up by explaining what the mission of the husband is. Husbands, here's your mission.
Yeah.
Serve your wives. Love your wives. Minister to your wives.
Take out the trash for your wives.
Take out the trash for your wives.
Nick.
So it's literally saying, wives, allow your husbands to serve you.
Yeah.
I mean, if you take everything into context, it's such a beautiful dynamic. But Lilith, in this lore, in this theory, in this, we'll call it a heuristic. In this heuristic, Lilith was incapable of understanding the idea that in this dynamic of relationship with Adam, she would benefit so beautifully and greatly from it.
Mm-hmm.
Because all she could see was the idea of being sub. It's like she was missing the rest of the words. All she could see was sub.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But submission, and with Adam's mission being to love and serve his wife, and we miss that in our society, and that's why I love. I'm gonna make a little plug here for my sister. My sister is about to release this book called Girlish Vigor, and this book is so powerful because it presents to women the opportunity to reclaim their dignity and the energy behind what God has given them and the ways in which He's inspired them to be powerful parts of our society. But it does not present that in a spirit of doing it in rebellion or being in spite of men. The way that I word it when I'm talking to people about girlish vigor, specifically my sister's book, is I say, this is feminism in its truest form. This is, women are incredible because they are badasses, not despite men, but in their own right. Too often feminism degrades into this, we are awesome despite men. And I think that's what Lilith represents. Like, we are awesome because we can dominate men. Yeah. No. Men should not dominate women. Women should not dominate men. Like, we have incredible dignity and missions in and of ourselves. Incredible plans from God that are adventurous and powerful, and they do not have to overshadow each other.
To be fair, you both are good Christian men, but there are a lot of men who do not know how to be true men. And so us women, a lot of women, living in the fallen, broken world that we do, they are experiencing like the need to stand up. I'm not saying it's right, but I commiserate with them and feeling like we have no voice. But it doesn't mean you have to rebel and hate men, you know. And the good men should rise up and show these broken, sad women like what it means to be servants to them. You know, we need more examples of
authentic
good men
masculinity
to be able for us to trust men enough to do that. Like, we've become so guarded that, you know, it just, the whole situation is just so broken and twisted, and that's what the enemy wants it to stay like. So what your sister is doing is amazing. I've read parts of the book. It's going to be awesome. So
yeah, I find I mean, the whole thing is so puzzling. Like, and I think like it would be impossible to try to argue that men have not in any way, shape, or form historically, especially in America, treated women inappropriately, or that there has been
anywhere in the world.
This sounds so dumb, but like, with great power comes great responsibility, right? Like,
it's
with
like,
these biceps comes great
that,
responsibility.
Like, when our son starts singing, "What's this, Dad?" I hope, Nick, you teach him, with great power comes great responsibility.
I absolutely will.
Because it's like...
But like, what's coming to mind, which is probably a horrible example, but you know the TV show Mad Men?
I've never seen it.
We've never seen it.
So I don't know how accurate it is, but they tried to portray what it was like to be in a work environment in what is it, the 1950s or 60s or something. And it's very like, you see the dynamic, you see the huge difference between men and women and how men and women are treated, and you see the blatant sexism, but also I think the thing that is attractive is the difference between men and women. Like the romanticizing of that time period, and everyone's wearing suits and ties, and the Frank Sinatra era, and people wearing dresses, and there's a romanticism about that because there was very blatant differences between men and women.
Yeah, definitely.
But at the same time, because of that very blatant difference, it was way easier for a man to abuse that power because it was in a lot of ways a man's world. But at the same time, it's really hard to make the case clearly and cleanly that it was a man's world, but women had no power in it. Because like the show gives a really clear, at least as you're watching it, you're like, yes, it's a man's world, but women ultimately are the ones who are sought after and the ones who do have a different type of power over the whole office. And it's a type of like, it's a strange,
I think,
dynamic. Like if you think if anyone is honest about their marriage, I mean, the man in like, let's say a traditional marriage or whatever, where the man has the full-time job and the woman stays at home and watches the kids. And some feminists might say, well, she's in a powerless situation and she doesn't. But I mean, at the same time though, I mean, if mom's upset, I mean, it's way worse than if dad's upset, right? Like there's a way in which
she controls the climate of the household.
There's a way in which even though dad pays the bills, it like there's this weird dynamic that does rest upon the wife, the mom, the spouse, the woman. Like, I mean, if
we are the moral compass of society.
Yeah.
We are.
Yeah. Like
so
it's the backbone, right? Like, I mean, and how many times do we joke and make fun of men who can't take care of themselves at home without their spouses, without their wives, right? So, I mean,
see, that to me frustrates me because it almost feels like the men are still children when it comes to that. And I don't like that because it's not the woman's responsibility to be the grown up while the man like just, oh, I can't do anything without you. I don't know.
No, totally.
Speak to that.
Yeah, totally. But that's what I'm saying is like, even in the this 1950s version of men are like, and if a radical feminist would be like, well, no, the men had all the power. It's like, well, yeah, but also if their spouse was like not having it, like it was awful. Like like even the weakest person in the relationship has the ability to say, I'm out. You know what I mean? Like there can still be this, and in a marriage is not 50-50. It's 100%, 100%. And so there is even power and.
But wait. I don't want to just graze over that. Mm-hmm. That's huge. Yeah. That is a distinction that I think in the truest Christian sense is unique to Christianity. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think our society posits marriage is 50-50. I think Christianity posits marriage is 100%, 100%. The difference is that there's a civil union versus a sacramental union. In the sacramental union, you make yourself a complete gift to the other person.
Yeah.
In the civil union, 50% of whatever assets you have, 50% of whatever makes you who you are, legally or financially, is brought into this. Mm-hmm. Or you are 50%
sucks
brought into this.
If you ever leave me because I don't make any money.
But I'm just saying, I think it's an important distinction because sacramentally, it's you as a person. You completely make up a half of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think in a lot of other
traditions.
Well, yeah, or like whatever, like perspectives, natural secular perspectives on marriage is that like, well, we're both agreeing to live here and we're both agreeing to share these things, so we split it down the middle. And like you're saying, like a Christian approach is like all that I have that is mine is yours,
yes,
and all that you have is mine, and
yes,
and in saying
that's terribly frightening.
It's terribly frightening, especially if you're like a radical feminist, because you're like, no, I'm not your property. But it's a mutual self-gift. It's like,
and you always want the best for that other person. Like it's never like, you're mine, so do whatever I say. It's
right.
I have grown up understanding, I feel like for some reason, more of the feminine side. I think like my wife and I,
that doesn't surprise me.
and my huge bone structure and rugged good looks. If you look at my wife and me, a lot of times my wife acts more country and cowboy and masculine, and I am more like artsy and emotional and like sensitive, right?
Yeah.
And
So you must be trans.
no.
Oh, okay.
But I think if I could try to, as a white male, empathize or like relate to the feminine dynamic, there is a great power in being weak, in allowing someone else to be the strong one. Because in when you allow someone, like, okay, I'm going to allow you to be the strong person in the room, or I'm going to allow you to think you're the smartest person in the room, or I'm going to allow you to, there's a certain level of power dynamic in that happens sometimes, right? Like there's times where I interact with people where like very quickly you pick up on, this person thinks that they're the smartest person in the room, and I'm not going to shatter that for them. And there's a certain Nick, there's a certain level of assuming that, like taking that second seat and going, okay, cool, like there's a certain level of power dynamic that is not as cut and dry as like, oh, they're the most powerful person in this system and I am less powerful. I think there is some type of weird dynamic where playing the less powerful is sometimes a more powerful position.
But why? Why is that more powerful?
I don't
Think
know.
of Jafar as the advisor and the silly
The
sultan
vizier.
Yeah.
who's in charge and who's actually in charge. Jafar.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
I don't
but that's
know.
only because of his magical serpent staff.
No, the silly ding-dong sultan was a ding-dong.
Ding dong.
Because of a magical serpent staff.
I mean,
Oh, he was kind of a ding-dong.
I'm not articulating it well enough, but I
No,
think
you are. But I think because of our listeners and watchers, I want to kind of break that down more.
yeah, like I haven't thought it through well enough to articulate it correctly, but
I've always heard the phrase, the women are the neck, the dude's the head.
Yeah, right?
You can turn
Right.
them however you want, but I disagree with that. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm living with
I mean,
really
a lot of
stubborn
these
man.
constructs are just that. I mean, it's societally imposed.
Yeah.
I think that we just need to be conscious that when we get into a heart posture of having to be overly protective of ourselves, something's wrong. If we're having to guard our hearts, having to guard our souls from our spouse, something's wrong. We need to be able to be a complete 100%, nothing held back self-gift.
Sure.
And if we find ourselves inclined or drawn to hold something back or protect some part of ourselves, there's something wrong.
okay,
Not wrong, broken.
Broken, sure.
Well, here I'm thinking, like, if you approach it purely from you're trying to do the short math of power, like you're trying to interpret everything as who has power. If you do it that way, then you come up with an answer that's like, this person has the most power, so therefore they're the most powerful in this situation. But like, for instance, like think of Hamlet, right? Hamlet is the main character. He's the biggest, he's the hero, he's the center of the story, he's the in some ways you could say, oh, he's the most powerful. He's making the decisions, he's casting the narrative forward. But Ophelia, it is the cause of a lot of the drama for him.
Helen of Troy.
Right? Like, yeah, same thing. Like, and so
Helen of
while Ophelia is not the most quantitatively powerful, she holds the most power over, I mean, you could say Ophelia, Hamlet's mom, Hamlet's father,
Yeah.
and Hamlet's stepfather, right?
Yeah.
Or the same thing in Othello. There's Othello, and then there's Iago, and like Othello's like the
Iago.
Yeah, Othello's like the right. I'm pretty sure it's Iago. Othello's like the main character. He has all the power in the story, but Iago is like manipulating and like shaping how everything's interacting, even though when you look at it, it's like, this is the person in charge, this is the person with the technical quantitative power, but there's another person that has a huge impact on that person's life. I think with Hamlet, it makes more sense in this, like this power dynamic. Hamlet has power. He can make decisions. He's making decisions. He's figuring this out. He's torn. But Ophelia has such huge sway over him while not being quantitatively powerful. Like Ophelia doesn't make decisions that I mean, she does make decisions that impact the story, but she's not the main character. She's not the rightful heir to the throne. She's not any of that. But her as a woman and her as the love interest of Hamlet has huge impact, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you've heard this before where, you know, the man is the one that has the job and the one that owns all the property and the one that has the money. But man, your wife says, like, your wife can just say this one thing and then you just crumble as a person, right? Like, you're just like your father. And then it's like, for 3 months, you're just like crumbled. You just, like, you have, like, she doesn't have the quantitative material power, but she holds, as what you're saying, the subject of who should be served, as the person who should be served, as the less powerful. She has so much more, like, sweat. Like, what is a king without subjects? It sounds dumb. Like, I'm afraid to say it.
I think there's power in both. It's just different types of power.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
And let's make a full circle as we're coming in for a landing at the end of our record limit.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for flying Nick and Alina Air.
Yeah.
You're now free to move about the country.
Full circle here. In the Davidic kingdom, and I want to tie this into what you were saying, Edmund, at the beginning about, like, God's culmination of creation was Eve. Like, that's where he stopped.
Yeah.
He stopped at Eve because he was like, yo, I did it all.
Yeah.
Eve was the pinnacle.
Mm-hmm.
In the new kingdom, in the new creation, in the new Adam and the new Eve, we have Jesus Christ and we have his mother Mary. Mm-hmm. And historically in the Old Testament, in the Davidic kingdom, the queen was the mother of the king, not the wife of the king. Mm. And this is a very important distinction. And
David was the first one to do that.
Right, that's why it's the Davidic kingdom.
Yeah.
All right.
But I think anyway, sorry.
Yep,
yeah.
the Davidic kingdom, as in the kingdom from David.
Yeah. Okay.
The queen was the mother of the king, and in the new creation we have the new Adam, as St. Paul refers to Jesus as the new Adam.
St. Paul, the original journalist, reporting.
The original reporter.
Yeah.
And the new Eve is who but Mary. Mm-hmm. And in line with the Davidic kingdom, Mary is the queen, the mother of the king. Mm. And she is the pinnacle of creation, as Eve was then. Christianity is the ultimate feminism.
Yeah.
We hold femininity.
We hold it. We touch it.
We hold it. Why are words so hard? We hold femininity in such hard.
Be appropriate.
You know, sometimes when I, like, you know, if it's a Saturday and I'm like, what should I hold?
Okay.
I think I should hold some femininity.
We hold femininity in such high regard.
I hold it gently.
Yo.
I hold my femininity very gently.
Because, I mean, if you look at the wedding at Cana, like, the whole lesson in the wedding at Cana, there are no wasted words. The whole point, the whole lesson is that Jesus will listen to the words of Mary. He will listen to the words of his mother. He will listen to the words of his queen.
Really? Because my kids don't listen to my words.
Well, that's a different issue. There is a beautiful dignity. There's a beautiful dignity in femininity, and we don't need to. Why is that word so hard for me right now?
Why are you laughing? Why is it? Keep going. Preach.
Lilith is not the answer.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Truth.
Yeah. Lilith is not the answer.
She scares me.
She would be scary.
Yeah.
Kills babies. Who does that?
Awkward.
This has been an uplifting moment from Nick and Alina. Use offer
Anyways,
code It's Your Show for 10% off. at
if for
checkout.
whatever reason you enjoyed any of this, we invite you to check out nickandalina.com or patron.nickandalina.com.
Yay.
Don't put an E in it. It's wrong.
Yeah, it's not Patreon. We don't support them anymore. They became weird and political.
Yeah. And we are
Weird
not
and
political. We are
political.
apolitical.
Well, that's
I am a
not entirely
monarchist.
true.
I do believe in the monarchy, so I'm kind of political in that
Oh,
way.
really? You're trying to bring back monarchy? That's awesome.
Of course.
Cool.
Why
Let's do
not?
it. Why not?
all right. We'll be back with you next week on Conversations with Nick and Alina.
I won't be here.
He won't be here. This is
Bye,
the last
Edmund.
Goodbye, guys.
Thank you
Goodbye,
for joining
Edmund.
us.
It's been a joy and a pleasure and an honor.
one. So much pleasure. Enjoy.
So much.
Hold
It's
my
been great.
femininity.
We will.
Goodbye.